After jumping off the city tower, I was reborn, returning to the day the crown prince was injured. The crown prince pushed me into a filthy ditch, his eyes filled with disgust. "Don't touch me, you make me sick." In my past life, I carried the injured Xiao Ziyi out of the wilderness, earning the emperor's decree to marry him and become the crown princess. Yet, though I loved him with my life, he loathed me to the core. On the third day of our wedding, he took a concubine just to spite me. Later, when the kingdom fell and our home was destroyed, he abandoned me and fled with his concubine. It was only then that I finally understood his heart could never be warmed, but it was already too late. With nothing but resentment in my heart, I leaped from the city tower. In this life, I stared at Xiao Ziyi, who was severely injured yet pushed me away, refusing to let me near. I smiled coldly. "Then you just wait here to die." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The crown prince raised his eyes to glare at me, but froze when he saw the hatred in my gaze, as if he had been struck by awe. "Jiang Wu, why are you looking at me like that? If you hadn't insisted on coming closer, I wouldn't have pushed you." He spoke through gritted teeth, yet his tone unmistakably carried a hint of guilt. In our past life, assassins suddenly appeared during the polo match. He was chased to the edge of a cliff, covered in wounds. It was I who found him, and despite his loathing, stubbornly insisted on saving him. To carry him to safety, I scraped both my hands raw, yet after we married, he repeatedly scorned the ugly scars on my hands. He even said his concubine's skin was like congealed fat, her hands like tender shoots 1,000 times more pleasing than mine. This lifetime, I'll never play the fool again. I rose from the puddle, wiped the filthy water from my face, and with a cold smile, gave him a graceful bow. "If your highness despises this common girl, then this common girl shall no longer obstruct your view. Xiao Ziyi, you see, it's not that I refuse to save you, it's that you yourself no longer wish to live." With a flick of my hair, I turned away with unruffled poise. The crown prince was startled and whispered, "Where are you going?" I turned back and smiled mockingly. "Naturally, I'm staying far away from your highness, lest I disgust you further. Oh, and by the way, your highness should lower your voice, best beware of any lingering assassins nearby." "That's not what I meant, I saved him." Yet he kept pushing me away. Only when I was about to leave did he realize if I truly walked away, he might die. Some people are just hopelessly stubborn. "Jiang Wu, come back." In his panic, he bumped his wound and hissed in pain. I ignored him and ran off without looking back. "Xiao Ziyi, you can rot here for all I care. In this lifetime, I will never have the slightest connection with you again." Following the memories of my past life, I avoided places where assassins might appear, traversed mountains and valleys, and finally reached the official road back to the capital. My clothes were completely torn, and both shoes were lost somewhere along the way. Disheveled and covered in dirt, I stopped a carriage coming toward me. The carriage looked extremely plain, with only a coachman and an elderly servant seated at the front. Probably from some modest, impoverished household. "Old uncle, could you give me a ride?" Clutching the carriage front, I pleaded with the elderly servant. He looked troubled. I must ask my young master first." The person sitting inside that carriage was probably his young master. Peering inside, I called out, "Young master, this humble girl has become separated from her family. In these desolate mountains, I cannot return alone. Might you give me a ride?" After several moments of silence, an exquisitely pleasant yet bone-chillingly cold male voice came from within the carriage. "Why should I bring along a woman of unknown origin? I am not a woman of unknown origin. I am the legitimate granddaughter of the Marquis of Ping'an in the capital. If you save me, the Marquis will reward you handsomely." A low chuckle came from inside the carriage. "I've heard that the capital places great emphasis on the separation of men and women. Wouldn't sharing a carriage with me tarnish your reputation?" It seems they're from out of town. No wonder, with such a long journey, that the carriage is worn out. "No worries, why don't you just marry me then? It's getting dark. If he refuses to take me, I won't be able to make it back on my own." With both hands, I heaved myself up and climbed right in. "Oh dear, young lady." The old servant couldn't stop me as I slipped inside before his very eyes, as the carriage curtain lifted. The strikingly handsome yet cold face came into view. How strange, though this young master from an ordinary household wore simple, clean attire. His bearing and demeanor exuded such noble dignity it was almost intimidating. His narrow, deep-set eyes seemed to howl with the bitter northern winds, making it impossible to meet his gaze. "A man and woman alone together in a carriage, aren't you afraid of what people might say if they see us?" I froze for a moment, then smiled and sat down across from him. Then why don't we get engaged right now? That way no one can say a word. You're quite the handsome gentleman. And I'm not bad-looking myself, a match made in heaven where neither loses out. His gaze swept over my grimy face, and he smiled silently. What's so funny? Once cleaned up, it's quite presentable. I raised my hand to tidy my disheveled hair when suddenly a spotless white handkerchief was tossed onto my knee, before I could thank him. The man had already averted his eyes and said indifferently, "Tell Fubwa where your home is, that's all. He's acting like this because he doesn't want to deal with me anymore. This guy is really something." I picked up the handkerchief, wiped my face, lifted the carriage curtain, and told the old servant my home address. Just as I was about to strike up another conversation with him, I saw his eyes sharpen. With a flick of his hand, the carriage curtain tore open. And from outside came the sound of something collapsing. After a moment, the old servant said, "Young master, he's dead." He closed his eyes and said, "Let's go, don't bother. Someone will come to collect the body." Dead? What's dead? Blank-faced, I reached to lift the curtain, but heard him calmly stop me. "You'd better not look," probably thinking I'd be scared, but I'd already seen it, a figure in black, with a dart embedded in their forehead, motionless now. Small potatoes, likely just one of the assassins who'd been tailing us. I glanced at the man who was resting with his eyes closed, silently grumbling to myself, "This person is truly formidable. If I follow him, he might just be able to keep me alive." I lowered the curtain and couldn't help but sit up straight. Before nightfall, the carriage entered the capital and stopped right at my doorstep. I bowed to the man and said, "May I ask for your name, young master? This humble woman would like to visit and express her gratitude another day." The man reached out to lift the carriage curtain and said calmly, "It was nothing. Go back now. How dull. It seems this marriage won't happen after all. Then wait here for me, don't leave yet. I'll come find you shortly." After giving him a few instructions, I lifted my skirt and jumped off the carriage. The servant at the gate stared at me in surprise, took a moment to recognize me, then cried out with both shock and joy, "The young mistress has returned. The young mistress has returned." Soon, a crowd of maids and servants rushed out from the mansion, carrying quilts to wrap me up. "Young mistress, you've finally come back." The old madam was nearly worried to death. The wet nurse sobbed uncontrollably, shielding me as she ushered me inside while crying out, "Old madam, the eldest young miss has returned." "Jiao Jiao," came a hoarse cry from ahead. The matriarch of the Jiang family, my grandmother, her face streaked with tears, came tottering toward me. I had never seen her cry before. Now grandmother appeared just an ordinary old woman, but in her youth, she had slain enemies, delivered disaster relief, and been personally ennobled as a marchioness by the late emperor. She was the strongest woman I had ever seen. I always thought she didn't love me. In my past life, I resented her for being too strict with me, believing she only favored her granddaughter and didn't care for me. I grew distant from her. Later, she vehemently opposed my relationship with Xiao Ziyi and insisted I marry a poor scholar instead. I thought she was harming me, so I turned against her in an instant. It wasn't until I stood on the city wall ready to jump that I learned the poor scholar from back then had become a high-ranking official, while Xiao Ziyi proved utterly unworthy of my lifelong devotion. Gazing at my white-haired grandmother, I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. How could she not love me? In my past life, I must have been blind to have misunderstood her so. "Grandmother." I fell to my knees before her, choking back sobs. "Jiao Jiao was wrong, grandmother. Jiao Jiao shouldn't have disobeyed you." Startled yet overjoyed, grandmother pulled me into her embrace, her aged eyes brimming with tears as she asked in disbelief, "Jiao Jiao, what did you just call me?" "Grandmother, grandmother," I sobbed, clinging tightly to her. In my past life, I had been at odds with her. From the time I came of age, I only ever called her old madam, never again addressing her as grandmother. I never expected that calling her grandmother today would make her so happy. Good, good, as long as my precious Jiao Jiao has returned, as long as you're safe, grandmother is so happy." The aged body trembled visibly, arms squeezing with such force as if trying to meld me into her very being. "By the way, grandmother, I haven't thanked the person who saved me yet." Wiping my face, I hastily led grandmother inside and retrieved a casket of gold from beside the bed, yet when I rushed to the doorway, all I saw was empty space outside, devoid of any trace. That man had long since left. Before the carriage entered the city, I spotted the imperial guards from my previous life, heading into the mountains to search for the crown prince. After returning, I reckoned the crown prince had likely been rescued. Since he hadn't died, he'd probably come to settle scores with me. After weighing my options, I closed my eyes and collapsed into my grandmother's arms, pretending to faint. When the physician came to examine me, I was still murmuring deliriously, "Hurry and save the crown prince, save the crown prince." 3 days later, the assassin was captured, and as expected, Xiao Ziyi sent someone to hold me accountable. With a haggard face, I explained meekly, "It was His Highness the Crown Prince who drove me away." After leaving, I had intended to seek help immediately, but who knew my body would fail me? I fainted. I have failed His Highness." The envoy was about to say more when my grandmother, gripping her python-headed staff, struck it firmly on the ground. The sudden motion startled the men, causing them to retreat 3 steps in alarm. "My precious daughter is already so ill. She cries out in her dreams to save the crown prince. What more do you want from her? She's just a frail woman. What could she possibly do even if she didn't flee? Must she sacrifice her life before you're satisfied?" "Madam, we are merely following. Whoever gave the order can come and say it themselves. We take our leave." The people from the Eastern Palace were terrified and scurried away in a flash. No wonder my grandmother is so domineering. Her niece is the current empress, and she herself was personally enfeoffed as a marchioness by the late emperor. Even the emperor and empress must show her deference. "Don't be afraid, my dear. With your grandmother here, no one dares to bully you." She patted my head and looked at me with affectionate eyes. Perhaps only when I'm sick can I see her so gentle like this. On ordinary days, her discipline methods are harsh and merciless. The slightest impropriety would earn a slap on the palm. Yet this is truly for my own good. If she didn't care for me at all, she wouldn't bother to discipline me. Why couldn't I understand this in my past life? A pang of sorrow struck me as I held her arm and dozed lightly. Suddenly, hurried footsteps echoed at the door, and in strode 2 women, one in red, the other in green. "Ah Wu, Buddha be praised, you've returned safely." I didn't need to look up to know it was those 2 nuisances, my stepmother and stepsister. They must have just returned from visiting relatives. "I'm so glad big sister is all right." My stepsister dabbed at her reddened eyes with a handkerchief, putting on an extremely concerned expression for my benefit. In my past life, I was deceived by her innocent facade and treated both her and her mother with great kindness. It wasn't until the 3rd day after my marriage to Xiao Ziyi, when my stepsister Jiang Xiu appeared in his bed weeping, "Sister, please forgive me," that I finally saw her true colors. I clutched the blanket, watching their performance with cold eyes. Jiang Xiu's gaze met mine, and for a moment, she seemed startled, guiltily retreating to her stepmother's side. At the same moment, another person entered, bringing in a gust of cool air. "It's my dad. I've told you already, AWU is fine. Look how frantic you 2 are. Urging me non-stop the whole way. You've even ruined the carriage." My father removed his cloak and bowed to my grandmother. "Mother, your son has returned." Grandmother nodded, somewhat displeased with him, but ultimately refrained from scolding. Jiang Xiu glanced at me, then shifted his gaze and opened his mouth as if to say something. I already had a hunch. In my past life, she played the perfect obedient daughter in front of my father while constantly provoking me with my stepmother's words, inciting me to rebel against him. As a result, in my father's eyes, I became an unruly girl who knew no manners, neither loyal nor filial. Meanwhile, she, compared to me, appeared as the pitifully well-behaved darling who stole all of father's affection. Today, I won't let her repeat those old tricks and allow such a petty scheme to succeed again. Ah Wu pays respects to father. Before Jiang Xiu could speak, I quickly covered my mouth and coughed twice, then weakly rose to greet my father with proper etiquette. Grandmother hurriedly stopped me. "Enough, my dear, no need for such formalities while you're still ill. Lie back down at once." "Ah Wu, just rest," he said. My father sat on the edge of the bed, looked at me, and sighed. "After this illness, you've become much more well-behaved." Tears welled up in my eyes as I reached out to grasp my father's sleeve, whispering softly, "Only after going through this did Awu realize how well protected I was by father before. Father, Awu was wrong. I'll never act willfully again, never make you angry again." My father froze for a moment, his expression softening considerably. The paternal tenderness I hadn't seen in his eyes for so long finally returned, no matter what misunderstandings there had been before. I was ultimately his own flesh and blood. Blood runs thicker than water. He couldn't stay angry with me forever. "You silly girl, your father has never been angry with you. As long as you remember this lesson and don't act willfully in the future, I'll be at ease." Jiang Xiu stood by, watching with astonishment. How could she have imagined that Jiang Wu, who had been utterly rebellious and quarreled with their father daily, would suddenly change her temperament? Her stepmother stealthily reached out and poked Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu jolted awake, then hurried to sit by the bedside, squeezing out 2 tears as she spoke with earnest sincerity. Sister is unharmed, truly wonderful. After hearing the news, Mother and I rushed to the temple overnight to burn incense. It must have been the Bodhisattva's protection. How laughable, after all the effort I expended to escape, it somehow became her accomplishment. Hearing this, my father turned to look at her and smiled approvingly. Tsiua is also a good child. These past few days, worrying about her sister, she couldn't eat or sleep. It must have been exhausting. In 2 days, your mother will be entered into the family registry for the ancestral rites. There's much to prepare, so don't overexert yourself. Go back and rest properly. Ah yes, my stepmother and father have been married for over half a year, yet she still hasn't been added to the family registry. I remember in my past life, during the sacrificial ceremony, for some unknown reason, a string of firecrackers suddenly exploded right beside my ear. The shock made me scream, causing me to lose composure in front of the clan members. I was scolded for lacking manners, and my father, ashamed of me, ignored me for a long time. Meanwhile, Jiang Tsiue, who stood beside me, remained perfectly composed and unshaken, earning praise from everyone for days afterward. At the time, I thought it was just an accident. Now, looking back, I realize things probably weren't that simple. I suppressed my thoughts and continued playing the obedient girl. At night, I summoned my personal maid to keep a close watch on Jiang Tsiue and her daughter. The maid was named Hua Zhaobi, personally trained by my grandmother, clever, alert, and nothing could escape her sharp eyes. In my past life, I had mistaken her for my grandmother's spy and treated her coldly, never taking her along when I went out. Tonight was the first time I truly spoke to her properly. Miss, I feel like you've changed somehow. Zhaobi said this cautiously before stepping out the door. I smiled at her. Well then, tell me, how have I changed? She scratched her head. I can't quite put it into words, but it's definitely for the better. Ah, not that you weren't good before. She covered her mouth and hurriedly ran away. Of course I've changed. Having experienced the sensation of death once, I'm no longer that naive young lady from before. In this life, all those who wronged me, owed me, or harmed me, none shall escape their deserved fate. I was right all along. The next day, Zhaobi managed to get the information. Jiang Tsiue and my stepmother were indeed plotting against me. On the day of the ancestral ceremony, I was supported by someone as I made my way to the ancestral hall. As juniors, both Jiang Tsiue and I stood at the very back. At the end of the ceremony, firecrackers were set off and gongs and drums were beaten. As the clan leader finished reciting the final blessing, I caught a glimpse of Jiang Tsiue's hands moving behind his back, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. I also smiled, covering my mouth as I coughed lightly. A series of loud bangs erupted, followed immediately by the shrill scream of my stepmother. Jiang Tsiue was startled, looking at the hall in astonishment. A string of firecrackers, for some reason, exploded beneath her stepmother's skirt. The sparks burned her dress and even scorched her face. Oh dear, what happened? I looked worried as I squeezed past Jiang Tsiue and ran to my stepmother. The firecrackers had already gone off, leaving her in a sorry state. She had knocked over several ancestral tablets and was now sitting on the ground, crying. Mother, get up quickly and wipe your face. How improper it is to behave like this in front of our ancestors. I took out a handkerchief and hurriedly tried to clean her face. The surrounding clan members gradually lost their patience, their expressions turning sour. Madam Jiang, get up at once. What kind of behavior is this? My father also hurried to help her up while demanding, how did these firecrackers get thrown in here? It was her, my sister, Jiang Tsiue cried, pointing at me indignantly with tears streaming down her face. Just now, my sister coughed and gave someone a look. And suddenly the firecrackers exploded. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned toward me. This girl is truly at her wit's end. Fleeing in panic, I suddenly burst into a fit of coughing. Cough, cough, Tsiue. You're being unreasonable. I'm gravely ill, coughing day and night. Everyone knows this. Just now I simply couldn't hold it back. Being sick isn't my fault. As for what you said about making eyes, that absolutely never happened. My father frowned and called out toward the door. Where's that boy who set off the firecrackers? Coming. Several men were dragging a young boy over. Upon seeing my father, the boy pleaded urgently, Uncle, I didn't throw those firecrackers. I was just about to light them in the courtyard when some beggar kid barged in and snatched them away, causing this disaster. As he spoke, he pointed toward the gate. A child younger than him was hiding behind the door, grinning as he peeked inside. When he noticed everyone looking at him, he quickly ran away. Someone whispered, just a prank. Whose child is this? So mischievous, the adults should really keep an eye on him. My father glanced at Jiang Tsiue and sternly said, What's the matter with you? making baseless accusations against your sister in front of everyone. Jiang Tsiu's face turned pale. Father, hurry up and help your mother up. Aren't you ashamed enough already? My father angrily pulled Jiang Yusha to her feet, apologized to the clan leader, completed the final ceremony, and took us home with a dark expression. He personally escorted me back to my room, instructing me to rest and recover from my illness. As for Jiang Tsiu, ever since we returned, my father's gaze towards her carried a hint of displeasure. At night, Xiaobi gave rewards to those two children from the daytime. Upon returning, she laughed with great satisfaction. That was so satisfying. Miss, the Jiangyu mother-daughter pair still wanted to harm us. MPH. They tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice. No sooner had she finished speaking than the voice of the grandmother came from the doorway. Who's the one who went for wool and came home shorn? Xiaobi and I were startled, both falling to our knees in unison. Grandmother stood firmly, leaning on her python-headed cane, fuming with anger. Woo! How dare you? Grandmother must have found out what I'd done. She had always abhorred evil and could least tolerate such dirty tricks. My explanations would be useless, so I simply spread my hands and offered them up. Grandmother, Wu was wrong. Please punish me. Do you know where you went wrong? I was wrong. Wrong to use unclean methods against others. No sooner had the words been spoken than grandmother picked up the rattan cane and gave me a sharp whack. She was furious, her chest heaving with anger. You, an unmarried girl, doing such things, what would people say if they found out? Where would our Jiang family's dignity be then? Dignity, always dignity. In my past life, I spent a lifetime pretending to be virtuous and tolerant for the sake of the Jiang family's dignity, living like a coward, suffocating to death. Though anger burned within me, I dared not show it. Grandmother meant well, and in this lifetime, I couldn't bear to upset her again. Yes. Wu knows she was wrong. I lowered my head obediently in apology. It seems it's time to arrange a marriage for you, to temper your wild spirit and prevent further trouble. Grandmother sighed and said, reflect on your behavior at home for now. In a few days, the young master from the Liangcheng Lin family will be coming to the capital. He's a good boy. When he arrives, you should meet him and see how you feel about each other. What was bound to happen had finally come. In my past life, I stubbornly refused to meet that elder brother from the Lin family, who later became an important official. He was assigned to serve outside the capital, and when the city fell, he remained unharmed. If I were to marry him in this life, perhaps I could take my family and leave the capital early. In the future, even if the barbarians breach the city walls, our family will remain safe. I nodded obediently and replied, yes, Wu understands. Grandmother paused, probably not expecting me to be so compliant. You're not deceiving your grandmother, are you? Do you still long for the crown prince in your heart? If Wu still cared for the crown prince, she wouldn't have abandoned him alone that day. After a long silence, grandmother nodded. That's good then. Does your hand hurt? I shook my head with a smile. Not anymore. Grandmother didn't hit me hard. You deserved a heavier beating. Now don't cause any more trouble. As for Madame Jiangyu, your grandmother will go and reprimand her. All right. Grandmother shot me a reproachful glare, scolded Xiaobi a few more words, then returned to her own room. I was confined at home by grandmother to reflect on my mistakes, forbidden to go anywhere. 10 days later, the empress summoned me, saying she wanted me to come to the palace for a chat. The current empress is my grandmother's niece, and she has always wanted me to marry Xiao Ziyi. Xiao Ziyi is not her biological son. Though he was raised under her name since childhood, he is not very close to her. In fact, he somewhat resents her. I think this is probably the main reason Xiao Ziyi dislikes me. He refuses to be arranged by the empress. Before leaving, my grandmother slipped me a box of pastries. Jiao, the crown prince has been in the palace these past few days. You should go see him while you're there. It wasn't right of you to run off and leave him last time. Apologize to him properly so he doesn't hold a grudge. I opened the box and took a whiff. The aroma was almost intoxicating. As if Xiao Ziyi deserves that. Every time I entered the palace before, I would bring him pastries I made with my own hands, which he would immediately throw away. Now, even if he kneels and begs me, he won't get a single bite from my family's kitchen. On the way to the capital, Zhao Bai and I devoured every last crumb of the pastries our grandmother had made. Then bought the cheapest coarse grain cakes from a street vendor and placed them in the food box. After entering Kuan Ning Palace and paying respects to the empress, she still pulled me aside to chat as usual, probing repeatedly during our conversation to see if I still had feelings for Xiao Ziyi. In my past life, I saved Xiao Ziyi, and she seized the opportunity to request the emperor's decree for our marriage. This time around, I abandoned Xiao Ziyi and ran away, making it known throughout the city. Leaving her in a rather awkward position now, I pretended not to understand her hints, playing dumb the whole time. Finally, she could no longer press the matter and sent me away, telling me to go talk to Xiao Ziyi instead. I carried the food box out, waiting for Xiao Ziyi in the imperial garden. While the little eunuch went to fetch him, I stood under a tree, hiccuping incessantly from the wind. A few sparrows hopped around on the ground, pecking at something unknown. Footsteps approached, and I caught sight of Xiao Ziyi from the corner of my eye. Tall and imposing, he wore a black brocade robe that suited him perfectly, exceptionally stern and exuding an overbearing, dog-like arrogance. The wound healed surprisingly fast. Just as I lifted the food box and was about to turn and call him, I suddenly changed my mind. With deliberate calm, I opened the lid. "Why are you bringing this kind of?" Before Xiao Ziyi could finish his sentence, I'd already taken out a pastry, crumbled it in my fingers, and scattered the pieces for the sparrows gathered on the ground. He choked up, his half-extended hand awkwardly clenched into a fist before withdrawing. In the past, he never liked what I brought either, but for the sake of face, he would always take it only to throw it away later. This time, seeing him humbled, I felt an inexplicable satisfaction. I dared not laugh, pretending to have just noticed him as I set the food box on the ground and offered a respectful bow. "I pay my respects to your highness." He responded with a cold and aloof demeanor, his tone haughty. "Jiang Wu, considering you've come to admit your mistake of your own accord, I won't hold it against you for abandoning me last time. Who said I came to admit any mistake?" I brushed the crumbs from my hands and said nonchalantly, "Last time, it was you who drove me away. After I left, I did my best to find someone to rescue you. What fault is there in that?" Xiao Ziyi choked, his face turning green. He had thought I came to apologize, but instead got slapped in the face, metaphorically, which naturally made him feel extremely uncomfortable. "Then why are you here? Her Majesty summoned me." I sighed and said, "I cannot refuse Her Highness's words, Your Highness. I'll speak frankly, Her Highness has always wanted me to marry you. In the past few years, to please her, I've been following you around, but now, I want to live for myself. I don't want to waste any more time on you." Xiao Ziyi's pupils contracted, clearly not expecting me to say such things. His face turned pale, then flushed, a rather amusing sight. Waste time, furious. It took him a long moment to compose himself before he spat out angrily. "Fine, very well, I hope you stick to your words. From now on, never appear before me again, as you command." I curtsied cheerfully and walked away in high spirits. Not long after leaving, I suddenly remembered I'd forgotten the food box and turned back to retrieve it. At the corner, I unexpectedly overheard the eunuch beside Xiao Ziyi ask, "Your Highness, Miss Jiang used to shamelessly cling to your side every day. Why is she acting so strangely today? It's as if she's become a different person. Could it be that everything before was just an act, talking about me?" I peeked out with half my head to steal a glance, but I saw Xiao Ziyi's face darken as he clenched his fists and sneered, "Just a girl's petty tricks, trying to catch my attention this way. Just watch, I'll deliberately ignore her. Let's see how long she can keep up this act." The young eunuch pondered for a moment before saying, "It doesn't seem that way. If they truly wanted to attract you, they wouldn't have abandoned you and run off last time. Your Highness, could it be that you're just imagining things? What a fearless eunuch, I like him so much." I lifted my foot and walked over. I forgot the food box. The hairpin on my head jingled like a cacophony of gongs, drums, and firecrackers as I swayed and shimmied forward. Xiao Ziyi turned his head to look at me, and his handsome face instantly flushed red. He glanced at the food box on the ground and awkwardly took a step back. Stammering, "Why you? How can you be so careless?" His voice was loud, but his confidence was lacking. Being gossiped about behind one's back and then exposed, no matter how thick-skinned, anyone would feel embarrassed. The eunuch stole a glance at Xiao Ziyi, then blushed and turned his head away in embarrassment. I picked up the food box, about to leave, then turned back and asked Xiao Ziyi with curious eyes, "Just now I accidentally heard Your Highness say something about pretending. I didn't catch it clearly. What were you pretending, Your Highness?" Xiao Ziyi froze for a moment, his mind unusually blank, unsure how to phrase it. Hilarious. I glanced at the food box in my hand and said, I understand now. Your Highness must have taken a fancy to this food box and wants to use it to carry things. Right, there's no need to be shy about it. My home has plenty of these. Here, take it." Without waiting for his response, I shoved it into his hands. Xiao Ziyi took it, his face turning as red as a monkey's bottom. I curtsied and swayed my hips as I walked back. Walking away, I caught a glimpse of Xiao Ziyi picking up the food box and angrily throwing it at the little eunuch's backside. After returning home, I didn't go out again, focusing on waiting for Brother Lin to come. At the same time, I was also thinking of ways to move our family out of the capital. In my past life, the border gates were thrown open, and the barbarians reached the capital directly. Very few in the city survived. With my meager strength, I naturally couldn't withstand the barbarians or alter the fate of our fallen nation. The only solution I could think of was to persuade my family to relocate. After Brother Lin became an official, he was assigned to a post elsewhere. Marrying him might spare me from this calamity. After waiting several days, before his arrival in the capital, someone organized a spring outing in the suburbs to fly kites. I didn't want to go initially, but Jiang Xiu was attending. I remember in my past life, it was at the kite competition where she shone brilliantly and hooked up with Xiao Ziyi. This lifetime, though I no longer care for Xiao Ziyi, Jiang Xiu won't get her way either. I still remember all the ways she disgusted me after becoming the concubine. I had Xiaobi keep an eye on Jiang Xiu, and that very night, Xiaobi reported back that Jiang Xiu was indeed making kites in her courtyard. Ever since she became part of our Jiang family, she's been scrambling to befriend noblewomen in the capital, so she got the news even before I did. It's a very pretty kite, half finished already, but while making it, she was cursing you under her breath with her mother. Miss, should I secretly burn it for you? No, let her finish it. What's the fun in burning it now? It's much more interesting to let her get close enough to reach her goal, then cut her path off with a single stroke. I didn't disturb Jiang Xiu and waited for 3 days. On the day of the spring outing, I only followed her in a carriage after she had left. Upon arriving at Mulin Lake, Jiang Xiu jumped off the carriage and ran to greet the young ladies she had befriended. Xiaobi took the opportunity to sneak into her carriage and stole the box containing her paper kite. It was indeed beautiful. Jiang Xiu had put real effort into it. In my past life, I hadn't attended this gathering and didn't know what she had made. This time, I was truly amazed. What a pity, when intentions are impure, even the most beautiful kite becomes nauseating. Xiaobi, come, let's tear it apart for fun. Xiaobi hesitated slightly. What a waste. Miss, isn't this somewhat wicked of us? Wicked, I laughed. All the young ladies in the capital say that Jiang Wu, as the eldest sister, bullies her stepsister, is mean-spirited and jealous, a wicked woman. Didn't you know? Since Jiang Xiu slanders me like this outside and I can't clear my name, then I might as well be thoroughly bad, and be at peace with it. Come on, tear it. I handed Xiaobi a wing and was about to tear it when a leisurely male voice suddenly came from behind. Such a beautiful thing, why tear it? My hand paused, and I turned around in pleasant surprise. It was indeed that man. Long time no see. I never expected to run into him here. This time, he was dressed in a black robe woven with golden tiger patterns, making him appear even more handsome and noble. Last time I saw his family's carriage in shambles, I thought he came from humble origins. Now it seems I was mistaken. What are you doing here? How can I not be here? He glanced at the paper kite in my hand and added, this thing doesn't seem to belong to you. His question reminded me I came here to tear the kite. If I didn't do it now, Jiang Xiu would be back soon, so I gave it a forceful tug, and with a loud rip, it tore apart. Still unsatisfied, I threw it to the ground and stomped it into pieces. Indeed, it wasn't mine. I gathered the kite fragments back into the box and had Xiaobi return it. Wiping my hands, I asked him, you won't tell anyone, will you? He remained silent. You've seen it yourself. I'm not exactly a good person, but I rolled my eyes and smiled. After all, I am your fiancé. You wouldn't tell on me, would you? He chuckled in amusement. Since when did you become my fiancé? From the moment I stepped into your carriage. What, don't you like it? He paused for a moment before countering. Who wouldn't like a bright and cheerful young lady like Miss Jiang? The spring breeze was gentle, and his striking features made my heart skip a beat. However, if you knew who I really am, you'd probably wish you could take back what you said today. Then tell me, who are you? He remained silent, gazing into my eyes, the faint smile on his face transforming into a melancholy I couldn't comprehend. After waiting a few breaths, I urged, speak up. Only then did he slowly reply, this humble one is Xiao Boyan. As if a thunderbolt exploded in my mind, my body stiffened. The 9th Imperial Prince, Xiao Boyan, indeed. Suddenly, I found myself at a loss for words. The 9th Prince, Xiao Boyan, was born to the Miaojiang woman consort Yang, who 15 years ago personally orchestrated the shocking witchcraft calamity that shook the imperial court, resulting in countless deaths. Later, consort Yang was convicted, becoming a condemned woman, and was executed. Xiao Boyan, having fallen out of favor, also became a criminal. At the age of 10, he was exiled to Yangmen, although not stripped of his noble status. He has yet to receive a title or fiefdom. Noticing my reaction, he mocked lightly, scared. You must know I'm a criminal. Marrying me would make you a condemned woman too. Indeed, marrying him would mean becoming a condemned woman, with no peace for the rest of one's life. The Jiang family, a prestigious clan for centuries, has dwindled down to just me, the last remaining sprout in my generation. If I'm finished, the glory of the Jiang family will be severed. I bit my lip. What's all this talk about sinners? Don't lose heart. Perhaps one day the Emperor's boundless grace will turn the page on this matter. I haven't. He gave a laugh, his eyes glinting with fragmented light like shards of crushed ice. What are you afraid of? Rest assured, I know you were just joking. I didn't take it to heart. Hearing him say that actually made me feel guilty. Xiaobi waved at me and whispered, "Don't stay here too long. Jiang Tsiua is about to return." I glanced at Xiao Boyan, then turned and ran away. Once back in the crowd, I tried to forget what had just happened and greeted everyone. All the young ladies in the capital know me, but because I dislike socializing, while Jiang Tsiua gets along well with them, playing the innocent flower every day and crying about how I bully her, everyone treats me with indifference. After exchanging some polite words, the organizer suggested that everyone bring out their handmade kites for a friendly competition. Jiang Tsiua was the first to rush back to the carriage, proudly carrying out her box. "Tsiua, seeing how precious you are with it, you must have put in a lot of effort this time." Of course, the young ladies from various families opened their boxes one after another, displaying the kites they had made. When it was Jiang Tsiua's turn, she held on to her box without opening it, instead turning her gaze toward me. "Sister, you're the most skilled and clever. No one fails to praise your creations. With you here today, how could I dare to be the first to open my box? Sister, why don't you show us your kite first?" She knew perfectly well I didn't do it, yet she's trying to pin it on me, isn't she? I spread my hands. "I didn't do it, wouldn't do it. I'm just here to watch you all play." The crowd burst into laughter, with many showing looks of disdain. Too bad for them, having lived 2 lifetimes. What do I care about saving face? I don't feel the slightest bit embarrassed, in that case. "Tsiua, why don't you open the box and show us?" All eyes turned to her. Jiang Tsiua crouched down and proudly opened the box, yet the moment she saw its contents, her face turned deathly pale. The box was full of debris, her kite, now reduced to fragments. How could this happen? Instead of the spectacular debut she had imagined, Jiang Tsiua was thrown into disarray, tears streaming down like threads. "My kite! Someone has destroyed my kite," she sobbed, clutching the fragments like a child whose candy had been stolen. After looking around, her gaze settled on me. "It's you. You must have broken my kite." I quickly took a step back, looking at her with an innocent expression. "How can you accuse me like that? Did you actually see me break it? If not you, then who else? It's hard to say. What if your kite was damaged by the carriage's jolting? Or perhaps it just inexplicably shattered on its own, since you didn't witness how it broke." Don't go pointing fingers recklessly. I fanned myself with a handkerchief and went off to admire others' creations. Without her kite, Jiang Tsiua was reduced to a mere bystander, watching resentfully as other young ladies stole the spotlight. Strange, neither the Crown Prince nor Xiao Boyan was anywhere in sight. During this spring outing, the boys and girls were separated, the girls on the left side of the stream, the boys on the right. At the moment, they were playing games like pitch-pot. I sat on the grass, idling away the entire morning. At lunchtime, everyone gathered together. Jiang Tsiua must have said something to someone, because the young ladies she had attached herself to decided to champion her cause and denounce me. They were all somewhat talented, taking turns composing poems and reciting them for everyone to hear. Mostly, they were just bitter poems mocking me for being sharp-tongued and jealous. I watched their little performance with cold detachment before taking the brush and saying, "Since everyone's in such a poetic mood, I'll compose one too to match the occasion." They all looked at me as if expecting a joke, until I finished writing, stood up, and pinned the poem to the tree. A bunch of ugly hags, with foul mouths and endless nag, dumber than pigs in every way, with barely any talent to display. Jiang Wu. Someone stomped their feet in anger, pointing at my nose and demanding, "Who are you insulting?" I rolled my eyes. "Throw a stone at a dog, and the one who yelps the loudest got hit. Whoever feels called out is who I'm talking about. You're utterly vulgar and unreasonable. Can't you come up with something more creative to say? Is your pig brain really that lacking in vocabulary?" No wonder you associate with someone like Jiang Xiu, a bunch of dull-witted blocks of wood, can't even curse properly, even a dog with some education could insult better than you. My words had truly stirred up a hornet's nest. Several young ladies friendly with Jiang Xiu flushed crimson with rage and lunged to snatch the flowers from my hair. Jiang Wu, I'll tear your mouth to shreds, who says I was scared? I grabbed those girls and started swinging wildly. Originally for this spring outing, boys and girls were separated, so the boys across the creek couldn't hear what the girls were saying. Now things got interesting. Those girls and I were fighting, screaming like pigs being slaughtered, and in no time all the boys across the way stood up to watch the commotion. Just as I was really getting into the fight, I suddenly heard the Crown Prince's voice. Stop. Xiao Zedi's voice wasn't loud, yet carried immense authority. Upon hearing him, the young ladies immediately released their grip. Your Highness the Crown Prince. No one had noticed when Xiao Zedi arrived. Seeing us fighting, he approached with a darkened expression, his gaze sweeping across each of our faces in turn. This fight was utterly exhilarating. The several women who ganged up on me had their faces scratched, their hair buns undone, and were covered in dust, a truly delightful sight. Under Xiao Zedi's gaze, they belatedly felt ashamed, covering their faces, too embarrassed to be seen. Jiang Wu, brawling like a shrew in front of everyone, have you no sense of shame? Come here. What, out of all these people fighting, why is he only scolding me? I was so angry I couldn't move. He strode forward directly, grabbed my wrist, and practically dragged me into the woods. What are you doing? Let go of me. Xiao Zedi released his grip and said angrily, Jiang Wu, look at yourself, what kind of state are you in? Shameless, after causing such a scandal today, aren't you afraid of losing face? I laughed in anger. Embarrassing. How am I embarrassing? My reputation was already ruined anyway. How much worse can a fight make it? Unlike them, those so-called proper young ladies who treat their reputations as more precious than life, after the beating I gave them today, they'll be the laughingstock for the rest of their lives. Now that's truly humiliating. You're actually proud of this. Of course I am. Whoever cares more loses, and I've got nothing to lose. Why shouldn't I be proud? He was left speechless with rage. You're utterly hopeless. Who would dare marry someone like you? What's it to you? How is that any of your business? He choked on his words, then retorted, the Empress is your aunt, which makes me your cousin by marriage. Of course it's my business, I scoffed coldly. No need for your concern, dear cousin. My grandmother has already arranged for me to be betrothed to a young master from the Lin family. He'll be coming to our estate in a few days to discuss the marriage. Brother Lin is the most tolerant man, he wouldn't mind such trivial matters at all. He froze. For a long moment, he asked me in disbelief. Just last month you swore you'd marry no one but me, and now this month you're arranging a marriage with someone else. Your Highness, that matter is long over. I already told you in the palace last time I don't like you and don't want to waste any more time. You're truly fickle. Ah, yes. I rolled my eyes at him and swaggered away. My face was dirty, so I stopped playing and stomped angrily toward the carriage, with Zhaobi rushing to meet me. Just as I was about to reach it, a hand suddenly grabbed my sleeve and pulled me behind a tree. Startled, I quickly raised my hands to cover my face when I recognized who it was. Xiao Boyan scoffed lightly. What are you covering? I saw it long ago. Only then did I hesitantly lower my hand and ask him, where were you earlier? I didn't see you at all. I dislike crowds, so I stayed in a quiet corner. If you dislike crowds, then why come here in the first place? The Crown Prince's command cannot be disobeyed, so it was Xiao Zedi who summoned him. Were the two brothers that close? Just as this thought crossed his mind, the man suddenly produced a small porcelain bottle from his robe and handed it over. This is premium golden wound medicine that I always carry with me. Clean your wound and apply some. Do you carry it with you all the time because you get hurt often? In Yangmen, that harsh and bitter land, he must have fought his way through. Right. I took the small porcelain bottle, holding it in my hand, feeling somewhat embarrassed. You've seen me bully others, seen me fight. Don't you despise me for being disgraceful and degrading myself? To my surprise, he actually laughed. Why would I look down on you? Those so-called noble ladies and gentlemen of the capital are the most hypocritical. Watching you beat them up actually felt quite satisfying to me. For some inexplicable reason, the weight in my heart lifted, and I playfully retorted with arrogance, since you saw me fighting, why didn't you come help me then? Immediately after speaking, I regretted it. He wasn't anyone special to me, why should he help? I shouldn't have made such a joke. Xiao Boyan showed no particular reaction, simply replying, I was planning to step in if you couldn't handle it, but who knew you were actually quite formidable. After speaking, he looked at me with a smile for a moment, then added, Go wash your wound and apply some medicine. You'll be discussing marriage in a few days. It wouldn't be proper to show up with bruises. Marriage, ah. He overheard my conversation with Xiao Ziyi. I hurriedly explained, what marriage? I was just talking nonsense. Actually, he's just here in the capital for the exams, we've never even met, and there's nothing between us. I only said that because the crown prince claimed no one would marry me. He smiled and said, how could you not get married? Besides, a woman's worth isn't determined by whether a man wants her or not. You don't need to pay him any mind. Thank you, you're really kind. He was the only one, aside from my grandmother, who had ever said such a thing to me. In the distance, Xiao Ziyi somehow made his way over and, upon seeing us, shouted loudly, Boyon. My legs trembled with fear. Xiao Boyon turned to look at him and saluted with neither humility nor arrogance, saying, Your Highness, the Crown Prince. Xiao Ziyi glanced at me with a look of disgust. Boyon, why are you with her? Xiao Boyon looked at me, then lowered his eyes. Your servant accidentally stepped on Miss Jiang's skirt and was apologizing. Oh, Xiao Ziyi let out a sigh of relief and said, what apology? It's probably her own carelessness. Yet she's blaming you. Don't stand with her anymore. Come here. I have much to say to you. Understood. Xiao Boyon nodded, gave me a meaningful look, and then walked toward Xiao Ziyi, that damn crown prince. I secretly rolled my eyes at him before finally taking Xiaobi's hand and heading home. After returning home, fearing Jiang Xue might go cry to my father about her grievances, I deliberately left the wounds on my face untreated. The guilty party files the suit first, as they say, so I sought out my father first and put on a tearful performance. When Jiang Xue returned, I was covering my face, weeping pitifully. My father looked at her and asked irritably, why did you gang up with outsiders to bully your elder sister today? Jiang Xue was stunned and hurried to explain, I didn't team up with anyone to bully her. Elder sister tore my kite first, the other young ladies just spoke up for me when they couldn't stand it anymore, just a few words. And your face turns like this. My father's face turned red with anger. Look at what they've done to your sister. How is she supposed to face people after this? And you claim she tore your kite, do you have any proof? Jiang Xue stammered, unable to come up with a response, and finally blurted out defiantly, she was the only one who didn't make a kite today, clearly. Clearly she was jealous of me. Madame Jiang Yu was beside herself with anxiety. She had been signaling frantically, but Jiang Xue ignored her. In the end, she had no choice but to step in herself. Master, calm your anger. None of us were there today, so we don't know the truth. Xue has always been timid, you know that. How could she possibly bully AWU? Of course, I don't think AWU would falsely accuse Xue either. There must be some misunderstanding. The young ladies of the capital have always been jealous of our AWU and Xue, who's to say they weren't the ones stirring up trouble. This Jiang Yu woman truly has a silver tongue. If father were to hear her words, he might actually come to think Jiang Xue is naive and pitiable, being taken advantage of by others. Growing anxious, I was just about to speak when an angry shout erupted at the doorway. What nonsense about being manipulated. To my eyes, this is nothing but ill intent, a fox unable to hide its tail any longer. It was grandmother. I turned to look and saw my grandmother glaring at Jiang Yu's wife and daughter with cold fury, gnashing her teeth as she said, what kind of instigation could make someone beat my precious girl like this? Your daughter stood by and watched, untouched. While my darling's face was broken, even if there was a misunderstanding, I've never seen family treat their own like this. It seems to me you don't consider yourselves part of the Jiang family at all. The words were too heavy, and Jiang Yu's wife was so frightened she immediately knelt down. Mother, Xue absolutely didn't mean it that way. I don't care what she meant. From today onward, Jiang Xue is forbidden to step out of her courtyard until the day she marries. If she disobeys, she can get out of the Jiang family. Jiang Yu's wife was stunned, tears streaming down her face as she desperately looked toward my father. My father froze for a moment before hurriedly supporting my grandmother. Mother, isn't this a bit too? What, are you pleading for them? Do you even remember which one is your own flesh and blood? Under my grandmother's glare, my father instantly lost his nerve and repeatedly said, I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't dare. Whatever mother says goes, I won't say another word. Grandmother snorted coldly, then turned to me, examining my wounds with heartache. My precious, does it hurt? It doesn't actually hurt anymore, but I really love how grandmother fusses over me. So I squeezed out 2 tears and nodded pitifully. It hurts. It hurts, oh dear, poor little thing. Grandmother will call the physician to examine you right away. She wiped the mud from my forehead and added, when you're wronged, why don't you come to grandmother first instead of going to your father? he doesn't even care for you." My father immediately became displeased. "Mother, how can you say that? I'm her biological father, how could I not care for her?" Grandmother couldn't be bothered to argue further and said coldly, "Aren't you going to fetch the physician?" "Yes." My father glanced at grandmother and ran off resentfully to summon the doctor. I sniffled and burrowed into grandmother's embrace. In my past life, I had grown distant from my grandmother and turned against my father, and it had been so long since I'd been treated with kindness. From that day onward, Jiang Tsiue never came out to disgust me again. I was starting to feel anxious, time was passing too quickly. By autumn, the barbarians would break through Yang Men and march straight into the capital. I had to find a way to move my entire family away before then, or convince the imperial court to strengthen Yanmen's defenses. In the previous life, it was probably after Xiao Boyan left Yang Men that the defenses weakened, giving the barbarians an opportunity. But Xiao Boyan had been exiled for 10 years and had just returned to the capital with great difficulty. He likely had no desire to go back to Yang Men, so who else could go? What a headache. Brother Lin was either delayed on his way or something else happened, as he hadn't arrived yet. Half a month later, my birthday arrived. On one's birthday, naturally, one should eat well, drink well, and sleep well. That day, after finishing lunch, I was napping on the swing when Zhaobi came running in and said, "There's news from the palace. His Highness the Crown Prince is coming to congratulate you on your birthday. You're to prepare and receive him." I'm very unhappy. What is the Crown Prince doing here? Most likely the Empress sent him. How annoying, disturbing my good sleep. There's nothing to prepare. We'll deal with it when he arrives. I closed my eyes and went back to sleep. When I woke again, it was nearly dark. I rubbed my eyes, pounded my sore back, and walked toward the front hall. Zhaobi hurried to meet me. "Miss, you're finally awake. The Crown Prince has been waiting for you for hours. He's already finished 2 pots of tea." I froze. "Then why didn't you wake me?" "His Highness wouldn't let us wake you, said to wait until you woke naturally." "Oh well, not my fault then." I sauntered leisurely to the front hall, spotted Xiao Ziyi, and let out a yawn. "Well, if it isn't your Highness." Xiao Ziyi set down his teacup, his expression displeased, eyes simmering with restrained anger. "Finally awake, Jiang Wu. You knew I was coming yet chose to sleep the day away." I was somewhat speechless. "You didn't call for me. If you'd just sent someone to wake me, I would have gotten up. Besides, how was I to know he'd been waiting here for me all this time?" Hearing this, Xiao Ziyi grew even angrier, his face turning livid. There was a beautiful box on the table. I reached out and picked it up. "What's this?" I opened the box and found a set of jewelry, all in the latest styles and made of the finest materials, adorned with rubies and sapphires exquisitely crafted. "So beautiful. Are these for me?" Delighted, I picked up a hairpin and put it on, admiring myself in the mirror. Xiao Ziyi said gloomily, "This is a set of jewelry specially made for you by the Empress Dowager, as a birthday gift. So it was a gift from Her Majesty the Queen. How kind of her." "I thought it was from your Highness," watching me twirl in admiration. His expression softened slightly as he reached into his chest, saying, "I also have something for you, but I suppose your Highness wouldn't have had time to prepare a gift for me." "Even if you had, I wouldn't want it." I took off the hairpin and pouted. I looked up and noticed his face had darkened again. Your Highness, what are you reaching into your robe for?" He glared at me and snapped irritably. "It itches, I'm scratching." Xiao Ziyi left my quarters and went to speak with my father. Since they both served at court, their conversation was likely about official matters. No sooner had he left than my grandmother came looking for me. She grabbed my hand, her face beaming with joy. "Jiao Jiao, Brother Lin has arrived in the capital. Go and welcome him." I hesitated. "Can't we send the steward to greet him?" Grandmother chided me. "How could that be proper? The Lin family has been close to us for generations. Only a family member should receive him to show proper respect. I'm too old to walk that far, and your father is busy. Isn't it perfect for you to go?" "Come on, Grandma, your scheming is so loud even the Huns can hear it. You just want me to take this chance to get close to Brother Lin. As if I'm stupid." "I won't go, I refuse." I was about to run when Grandma's face darkened. "Ah Wu, have I been too lenient with you lately? Help, I'm genuinely afraid she'll get serious. Bloodline suppression is real." I hesitated, unwilling to go. Grandma said sternly, "Would I ever harm you? Hurry up, your brother Lin's carriage is about to enter the city. Go wait for him." Unable to refuse, I had no choice but to board the carriage to fetch someone. As night fell and lanterns lit up the streets, vendors selling oil, fruits, fans, and lanterns crowded the bustling thoroughfare. The carriage struggled to make its way through the throng. Just as we neared the south gate, a sudden commotion erupted ahead. followed by a piercing shriek that shattered the lively atmosphere. "Catch the assassin!" Screams erupted all around, plunging the scene into chaos. Xiaobi hastily lifted the carriage curtain and urged, "Miss, come out quickly," but the startled horse reared, throwing her off balance. Terrified, I clung desperately to the window frame, yet was still flung about until dizzy. Every organ in my body ached from the violent shaking, and just as I thought I was done for, I suddenly heard the sound of horses being reined in. The carriage gradually came to a stop. The carriage curtain was abruptly pulled aside. "Are you all right?" A familiar voice rang out. I looked up to see Xiao Boyan leaning over me like a deity descending from the heavens. I almost burst into tears. I retched violently. Xiao Boyan held me steady without flinching, as if unafraid I might vomit on him. After regaining my composure, I asked him, "Why is it you?" I was returning from outside the city and happened to witness the chaos within, carriages and horses running wild. From a distance, I recognized your carriage, so I came. I shook my head with a laugh. "So you only intervened because it was my carriage? If it hadn't been mine, you wouldn't have bothered." He gave a faint smile and replied matter-of-factly, "Of course not. Why would I care about someone unrelated?" I was momentarily stunned. Perhaps it was his aloofness that shocked me, or perhaps I was astonished that in his heart, I was someone connected to him, someone worth saving. So that time outside the city walls, I must have accidentally stumbled into making him break his rules for me. At this thought, I actually felt a little happy. The carriage curtain was abruptly pulled open again, and Xiaobi's panicked voice rang out, "Miss, are you all right?" "Ninth Highness." Xiao Boyan had no official title, so Xiaobi didn't know how to address him and simply called him Ninth Highness. He glanced at Xiaobi, helped me up, and asked, "What were you planning to do, going out so late at night?" I froze. He looked at me. Waiting, I had no choice but to stammer, "I'm going to pick up a distant cousin." It was just a made-up excuse, but unexpectedly, he remembered every word I'd said before. Raising an eyebrow, he remarked, "Could it be that Lin family brother who's supposed to discuss marriage with you? Your family sent you to fetch him. They must be quite pleased with him and eager for you two to be together." "Not really. I didn't want to go, but my grandmother insisted I must." He nodded. He plopped down right beside me. "I'll go with you." With an earnest expression, he said, "The southern part of town is a bit chaotic these days. Going alone might not be safe. With me along, nothing will go wrong." How am I supposed to explain that to people? Just say I'm your household slave. That's so embarrassing. Household slave, it feels a bit awkward. Xiaobi sat outside as the carriage set off again. Arriving at the south gate to wait, I got out of the carriage. Looking around while feeling somewhat melancholy, grandmother must have really liked brother Lin in both lifetimes. She wanted me to marry him. If I comply with her wishes, she will surely be very happy. Besides, brother Lin later became a high-ranking official. After much thought, he seems like the perfect husband. Yet somehow, my heart is in turmoil, and I don't look forward to seeing him at all. Could it be because of Xiao Boyan? The thought startles me. And I quickly fan myself to dispel the sudden heat. In less time than it takes to drink half a cup of tea, a young gentleman entered through the southern gate, accompanied by servants, dressed in plain robes. He carried himself with a clean and refined air, his features strikingly handsome. Spotting the small banner with the character Jiang in Xiaobi's hand, he walked straight toward us. With a respectful yet composed bow, he greeted, "I am Lin Jingyu from Yuju. Might I ask if you are from the household of Marquis Ping'an?" I quickly stepped forward, curtsied, and replied, "Cousin Lin, I am Jiang Wu. Grandmother sent me to fetch you, so it's my cousin. Tonight is your birthday, yet you've come to greet me. Lin is truly unworthy of such kindness." Lin Jingyu felt extremely embarrassed. His face turning red. "It's nothing. Grandmother was just concerned about your tiring journey and didn't want you to feel neglected, so she sent me." "Cousin Lin, where is your carriage?" Lin Jingyu was momentarily at a loss. "I don't have a carriage, I just remembered." Lin Jingyu is still a poor scholar now. He walked all the way here. I felt embarrassed too. I had only brought one carriage. Grandmother didn't remind me either. But why would she? She'd be thrilled if we shared a carriage. Her little scheme was quite clever. I made a gesture of invitation. Then you, forget it, let's walk back. Since I've come out to the capital, I'd like to take a stroll and see the sights. Alright then. This Lin Jingyu is quite an easygoing person. After taking a few steps, he spoke to me with some awkwardness. First asking about Xiaobi's name, then the coachman's, and exchanging greetings with them all. Finally, he inquired about Xiao Boyan's name. Xiao Boyan remained composed, bowed slightly, and said, This humble one is Wu Xiaojiang, the young lady's study companion. Greetings, Brother Wu. Lin Jingyu bowed to Xiao Boyan, looked at him, and sighed regretfully. I see that Brother Wu possesses extraordinary bearing. To serve merely as a study companion is truly a waste of your talents. Xiao Boyan smiled faintly. Not at all, it is my honor to remain by the young lady's side. Hearing these words, I suddenly felt my cheeks flush and my heart race. Lin Jingyu nodded slightly and said nothing more. The atmosphere grew awkward once again. Could it be that I really have to go all the way home with him and be forced into a match by my grandmother? I stole a glance at Xiao Boyan following closely behind me, feeling uneasy in my heart. Unfortunately, he's still a disgraced official now. Even if I were willing, the entire Jiang family would never agree. I truly have no feelings for this Lin Jingyu. And I genuinely don't want to be forced into this arrangement. As we get closer to home, once we enter, it'll be even harder to deal with. My palms were sweating with irritation as I pondered how to tactfully tell Lin Jingyu to stop setting his sights on me. But Lin Jingyu suddenly stopped. Cousin Jiang. He looked at me, seeming to want to say something, yet hesitated. My heart sank. What's wrong? At this moment, I was truly afraid he would suddenly say he came to propose marriage to me. Yet, to my surprise, he bowed slightly toward me. Cousin Jiang, after much deliberation, I feel I must speak frankly. Gritting his teeth, he said, before coming to the capital, the Ping'an Marquis's household had hinted they wished me to seek your hand in marriage, but Lin Jingyu feels unworthy of you, cousin, and moreover, I already have someone in my heart. It took me a while to process what had just happened. What did he say? He doesn't like me. Lin Jingyu, thinking I was heartbroken, began apologizing while declaring his resolve. I know I've wronged cousin Jiang, but I can't betray the one I love, though she comes from a poor family and is mute. To me, she's the most wonderful woman in the world. Even if you offered me a princess or a fairy, I wouldn't trade her. In this lifetime, I'll marry no one but her. He's in love with a mute girl. He won't marry me. How could I blame him? I'm grateful to him beyond words. Overwhelmed with joy, I bowed to Lin Jingyu. Cousin Lin, I understand your feelings now. I respect and support you. I'll speak properly with grandmother. I would never force you. Lin Jingyu looked at me with pleasant surprise and said, thank you, cousin Jiang. You're so understanding. You'll surely find a good husband. I won't enter the Marquis's residence now, cousin Jiang. Let us part here. One more thing. Happy birthday, cousin Jiang. Thank you, cousin Lin. Take care on your way. Lin Jingyu bowed deeply once more before departing with his elderly servant, his steps light and buoyant. That little mute is truly blessed with good fortune. I suddenly felt a pang in my nose and turned to look at Xiao Boyan. His eyes were brimming with laughter. What's the matter? Could it be that I'm such bad luck I ruined your grand wedding plans? Pay up. I don't have money, but I can give you something else in return. He looked toward the direction of the river and snapped his fingers. In an instant, several thunderous booms erupted as enormous fireworks burst into the sky, dazzling and brilliant, obscuring half the heavens. Gasps of astonishment rose from the streets. Xiao Boyan looked at me with a smile, his eyes sparkling like scattered stars. Jiang Wu, happy birthday. This time, I truly cried, sobbing. I asked him, Wu, when did you prepare this? At the south gate. When Lin Jingyu mentioned it was your birthday tonight, I secretly had someone make the arrangements. This is fucking sneaky. I had no idea at all. Thank you, Xiao Boyan. I threw myself forward and wrapped my arms around his waist. Xiaobi was terrified. After all, for a young lady from a boudoir to be hugging and clinging to a man was still quite outrageous. Miss, you mustn't. She hastily pulled me down. The fireworks lasted for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, drawing out even those who had already gone to bed to watch. Such extravagance. Xiao Boyan must have spent all his money. After the sky went dark, an evening breeze carried away the gunpowder smoke. All returned to silence, as if nothing had ever happened. Xiao Boyan said softly, let's go back. Okay. Reluctantly, I prepared to return. A troop of Imperial guards ran past in the distance. I stopped and asked Xiao Boyan, has the assassin at the south gate not been caught yet? Most likely not. Who is that assassin? The exact identity remains unknown, but according to witnesses, it might be a barbarian. Barbarians. I suddenly got excited. Xiao Boyan looked at me with some confusion. You seem quite happy. Of course I'm happy. Forgetting to hide it, I blurted out. The court has been at peace for over a decade and long stopped guarding against barbarians. With this incident, perhaps the court will finally take it seriously and strengthen Yanmen's defenses. He grew even more puzzled. What does this have to do with Yang Men? I froze, suddenly snapping out of my daze. Oh no, what am I saying? After stammering for a long while, I fabricated an excuse. I had a dream where Yangmen was breached by barbarians, their army marching straight to the capital, leaving countless dead and wounded, just because of a dream. Yes, after all, this is my homeland. I nodded vigorously. Then, I cautiously asked Xiao Boyan again. Why don't you want to return to Yangmen, guarding Yangmen, protecting our homeland? He cut me off with an icy gaze. This is not my homeland. This land is not worth my protection. I froze for a moment. Suddenly I understood the death of Princess Yang must have inflicted an incurable wound upon him. He harbors no affection for this entire nation. He has his own convictions, and I need not force anything upon him. Where will you go from now on, Miaojiang? His gaze fell upon some distant point as he said quietly, back to my mother's homeland. The sky darkened, a solitary bird cried out, and the capital grew still. He's going back to Miaojiang. I felt a bit lost, but there was nothing I could do. All right, I'm heading home now. I waved at him and ran towards my house. I got home very late. Strangely enough, Xiaozi still hadn't left. He was standing at the main gate, chatting idly with my family's guards. Clearly, he had been escorted here but refused to leave. My family's guards had talked themselves hoarse and no longer wanted to deal with him. When Xiaozi saw me, his eyes lit up, then he glanced behind me. You're back, why are you alone? I asked in confusion. What does your highness mean? He sneered and said, didn't you say you were going to meet that cousin of yours from the Lin family? Did you meet him? How did the conversation with cousin Lin go? Did the marriage arrangement work out? He knew about all this. Has he been staying at my place all this time just to wait and laugh at me? That damn bastard. I rolled my eyes and said irritably, cousin Lin doesn't want to come, he's returning home to marry his sweetheart. Xiao Ziyi froze for a moment before delight lit up his face. See, I told you, with that temper of yours, no one would like you. What's there to be happy about? This damned crown prince just can't stand to see me doing well. I was about to scold him when suddenly, a soft and gentle voice reached my ears. Your Highness, it's hot today. This humble girl has cut some watermelon. Would your Highness care to try some? I froze. Jiang Tsiue. Wasn't she forbidden to leave the courtyard? Was she so afraid of being married off hastily that she'd lost all sense of caution? I won't eat it. Xiao Ziyi grinned cheekily at me, chattering non-stop. Jiang Wu. What will you do now? No one wants you anymore. Should I take pity on you? Your Highness, this melon is exceptionally sweet. Please take a bite. A jade-like hand held out the melon towards Xiao Ziyi's face, and the smile on his face vanished instantly. He turned towards her with a sinister expression and asked, who are you? Jiang Tsiue thought Xiao Ziyi was finally acknowledging her. Lowering her eyes gently, she replied in a soft voice. This humble girl is the second granddaughter of Marquis Ping'an, Jiang Tsiue. Jiang Tsiue. The Marquis of Ping'an only has one granddaughter. What kind of trash are you? Jiang Tsiue froze, suddenly at a loss for what to do. This common girl, such a blind fool. You've ruined my good mood. Jiang Wu. Keep your people in check. He glanced at me and left in anger. Strange, in this lifetime, he no longer likes Jiang Tsiue. I gave him a slight bow as he departed. Then turned a stern gaze toward Jiang Tsiue. Who told you to come out? You're making a disgraceful scene. Jiang Tsiue's eyes brimmed with unshed tears. Swallowing her humiliation in silence, Madame Jiang Yu rushed out, feigning concern as she scolded. Tsiue, why did you come out? Hurry back inside with me. This Jiang household has evil spirits that devour people. I naturally understood her veiled insults, but couldn't be bothered to respond, simply walking away on my own. When I went to report to grandmother's room, she was combing her hair with my father attending to her. Oh dear, Jiao Jiao, you're back. Why didn't you send word ahead? Look at the state I'm in. I quickly pressed her back into her seat. Grandmother, Brother Lin has business and won't be coming. Why isn't he coming then? He must have something urgent that kept him from coming. Don't worry about it. Then what do you think of Brother Lin? I pretended to be coy. Very well, Grandmother. Brother Lin and I should take our time getting to know each other. From now on, we'll meet and talk on our own. Please don't interfere anymore. Good, good, good. Grandmother clapped her hands, overjoyed. I didn't tell her the truth right away. Before today, Grandmother had already pressured Lin Jingyu into marrying me. If I were to tell her that Lin Jingyu has someone else in his heart, knowing her ways, she might forcibly separate them without hesitation. It's better to keep it hidden for now. Once Lin Jingyu finishes his exams and returns home to marry that mute girl, then I'll come clean with Grandmother. My father suddenly asked, Awu, did you see the Crown Prince when you came in? I had nothing to say to him. I tried to send him off 3 times, but he kept dawdling and didn't want to leave. In the end, I had to leave him standing at the door. There's actually such a thing. I couldn't help but laugh. He's gone. Probably because he liked the crabapple blossoms at our doorstep and wanted to take a few more glances. The Crown Prince was really strange today. As we spoke, a guard rushed in and reported, "Sir, there was an assassin at the south gate just now. He's been caught, and the department requests your presence for the interrogation." My father was shocked. What assassin? The details aren't clear yet, but it's said to resemble barbarians. How strange. The barbarians haven't harassed our dynasty for over a decade. How could they have suddenly made it all the way to the capital this time? I secretly rejoiced. This might be the perfect opportunity to talk to father about suggesting the court strengthen defenses against the barbarians. But before I could speak, grandmother had already seen through this layer of concern. The barbarians have been silent for years, only to reappear suddenly. I fear they're planning something major. Wooer. When you attend court tomorrow, you must implore His Majesty to be vigilant, expand the military forces to guard against barbarian invasion, truly worthy of a battle-hardened marchioness. Her insight remains razor-sharp. My father smiled and said, "Indeed, mother need not worry, even if you hadn't mentioned it. Your son would have advised the same." Grandmother nodded slightly. "Good, with so many court officials, what I can think of, they can too. You may go now." After bowing deeply, my father departed to conduct the overnight interrogation. My father didn't make it in time to interrogate the assassins. Those men bit into poison and killed themselves not long after being thrown into the imperial prison. Although no information was extracted, at least it was confirmed they were barbarians, which drew the court's attention. Some officials began suggesting expanding the military forces and strengthening the defenses at Yangmen Pass, even if they're just small gestures. Having something is better than nothing. I really have to thank those assassins for this. However, I'm somewhat puzzled. Did barbarian assassins also storm the capital in my previous life? If they did, why didn't the imperial court react at all? After much thought, I realized that perhaps the imperial court did respond in my past life. But I was so single-mindedly focused on becoming the crown princess that I simply didn't pay attention to such matters. The military forces have been expanding for half a month, yet no suitable commander could be found. Our dynasty has enjoyed peace for so many years that most people have long forgotten how to wage war. My father has been quite troubled lately. I've also been feeling the pressure, normally indifferent to outsiders. I've recently started inquiring about which young men are particularly fierce or promising, hoping to approach and persuade them to defend Yang men. This matter somehow reached Xiao Zedi's ears. On my way home, he stopped me and angrily asked why I was flirting with random men everywhere. I couldn't be bothered to argue over such trivial matters, so I covered my ears and ran away. A few days later, the Empress held a grand birthday banquet at the palace and invited our entire family. I think this is an opportunity. Although the court has made some moves recently, they've been minimal and not taken too seriously. The Emperor may appear to no longer believe in supernatural matters, but deep down, he cares very much. Otherwise, the witchcraft scandal involving consort Yang back then wouldn't have escalated to such proportions. This time I entered the palace, I might as well make up some stories and exaggerate them a bit. Perhaps the emperor would listen. On the day of the birthday banquet, I dressed carefully and entered the palace with my grandmother. We weren't the only ones invited. Almost all the families of officials ranked second grade or above in the court were present. I thought the empress probably also intended to take this opportunity to select a crown princess for Xiao Zi. Before the banquet began, I sat at the front, hearing the hushed whispers of other families' women behind me. Is that Jiang Wu? I heard she's usually the most arrogant and lawless. Just the other day, she even hit someone in public. Yes, you only just found out. She loves bullying people. Nowadays, she's infamous throughout the capital as a wicked woman. Do you remember Jiang Tsiue? She hasn't been seen outside for days. Who knows? She might have already been killed by Jiang Wu. Ah, how terrifying. I heard she's recently discussing marriage. Any family that takes her in would be in for terrible misfortune. This is ridiculous. Probably, it was those young ladies I had beaten up who started the rumor. Seems like my reputation as a wicked girl has spread. I sighed and lowered my head to eat the fruit. Grandmother, sitting beside me, suddenly pressed my hand. "Jiao Jiao, don't mind what others say." She looked at me with tender eyes. "What they think doesn't matter. Your grandmother knows you're not that kind of person, and that's enough, even if no one is willing to marry you. Your grandmother will always cherish you." I was stunned for a moment. The whole world sees me as tainted, yet there is still one person who believes in me and stands as my support. How fortunate I am. I curved my lips into a smile, hiding the glimmer of tears. About half a cup of tea's time later, the Emperor and Empress arrived. After everyone had collectively offered their congratulations for the Empress's longevity and great fortune, they began drinking and making merry. With each family taking turns to present their daughters to showcase their talents, I scanned the crowd ahead but didn't catch sight of Xiao Boyan. Suddenly it dawned on me, given his status, he probably couldn't come to a place like this. Xiao Ziyi, on the other hand, was utterly at leisure. Seated below the Emperor and Empress, he drank gloomily, paying no attention to the performances, his gaze frequently drifting toward me. For a while, I worried he might be plotting something against me. But he didn't. After downing 2 full jugs of wine, he simply vanished. I had eaten too much fruit, and after a while, I felt the call of nature, so I left the banquet to relieve myself. As I walked along the garden path, I suddenly heard Xiao Ziyi's voice. He sounded drunk and seemed quite resentful. "Don't stop me, I can still drink," the young eunuch beside him anxiously said. "Your Highness, please go back and rest for a while. Going out in this state would be most improper." "I am the Crown Prince, who dares say I'm improper? Tonight, she didn't even glance at me, can you believe it? I must go and ask her why." Ask whom? While I was still puzzling over this, the two of them had already stumbled right into me. Jiang Wu, Xiao Ziyi saw me and stumbled over, grabbing my wrist tightly. What are you doing running out here?" Startled, I quickly replied, "I have urgent business, I need to relieve myself." "Let go of me, leave the palace." "Why would you leave the palace?" "I won't allow you to go." His eyes reddened with urgency. "You're leaving after barely an hour here. Do you really hate seeing me this much?" I don't know what madness possessed me as I struggled against his grip. "What nonsense are you talking about? Let go of me now. You're not allowed to leave, I forbid it. I am the Crown Prince, how dare you defy my will?" He yanked me into his embrace and, like a rabid dog, sank his teeth fiercely into my shoulder. The eunuch who followed was terrified and hurried to stop him, only to be kicked away. "Get out, those who disobey shall die." He gripped my hand tightly, dragging me toward the rock garden. "Let go of me, let go." I was terrified, screaming in horror, but he pinned me against the artificial rockery and tore my outer garments. He lowered his head, trying to kiss me, completely disregarding my desperate struggles. No matter how hard I fought, I couldn't break free, and I began to sob. "Please let me go, Xiao Ziyi, don't touch me. How dare you reject me?" His gaze was frenzied, tears glistening in his eyes. "You were the one who vowed to marry no one but me, yet you turned away and abandoned me. How dare you? Yes, I treated you poorly before, but that was because I thought you were a spy planted by the Empress Dowager. Now I know you weren't. Jiang Wu, why did you suddenly stop loving me? You're insane. Let go of me," I screamed hoarsely. But he only grew more violent, biting through my lip. Disgusting, absolutely revolting. The eunuchs outside dared not approach, leaving me utterly desperate. My hand suddenly touched a stone, gritting my teeth. I thought at worst we'd perish together. Having died once already, what did I have left to fear? I raised my hand, ready to fight to the death, but the Crown Prince suddenly took a heavy blow and slipped to the ground. Tears rolled down as the scene before me became clear. Xiao Boyan. He took off his outer robe, wrapped it around me, and helped me leave, his voice trembling slightly. "It's me." In the palace, there was a room specifically prepared for the women to change clothes. With a grim expression, he dismissed the others and led me inside. "Wait here, I'll call your maid to bring you fresh clothes." "Xiao Boyan." I frantically grabbed hold of him. "Your Highness, are you all right? You hurt him, will they punish you for this?" He didn't respond, clearly uncertain himself, choking back sobs. I asked him, "Why did you help me?" "Because you're in trouble. This isn't the answer. This can't be the answer." I grabbed his arm, looked straight at him, and enunciated each word clearly. "Xiao Boyan, do you, like me?" His expression remained calm, but his fists clenched. Then, from deep in his chest came a quiet, simple, indeed it is, indeed it is. I truly don't know whether I should be happy at this moment. What do you like about me? Haven't you heard what people say outside? I'm the most vicious and shrewish woman in the world. I've heard it. I'm telling you, what they say is true. I'm really bad. And I love bullying people." He looked at me and smiled faintly. "I just love the way you bully people." I was stunned and quickly said, You're a pervert. This is twisted love. You like it because I haven't bullied you yet. Then come bully me. You're crazy, crazy, crazy." He laughed. "Call me crazy then." Then suddenly asked, "Why did you gather information about so many men recently and meet them at tea houses? Were you choosing a husband for yourself? Absolutely not. I hurriedly explained. I wanted to find some capable and ambitious young men to persuade them to defend Yang Men. He was taken aback. Defend Yang Men, that's the court's concern. What does it have to do with you? Yang Men is the gateway to the capital. Once it falls, neither home nor country will remain. The rise and fall of the nation is the responsibility of every citizen. I cannot stand idly by. After a moment of silence, he finally said, "It seems this matter is very important to you. Of course, this is my home." After speaking, I felt a twinge of regret. Why was I telling him this? He harbored nothing but hatred for this place. Xiao Boyan smiled faintly and said no more, only urging, "Let's go in." With that, he closed the door. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Xiaobi and the grandmother arrived, followed shortly by the empress. Given the gravity of the matter, not many people were disturbed. The incident was quietly dealt with. The crown prince, having shown moral failings, was confined to the Eastern Palace to reflect on his mistakes, although Xiao Boyan saved me and performed meritorious service. He committed the offense of insubordination by injuring the crown prince. He was punished with 20 strokes of the rod and must leave the capital once he can walk again, never to return. On the second day after I returned to my residence, Xiao Ziyi regained consciousness, though he couldn't leave the Eastern Palace. He sent a letter. The letter was filled with earnest words and overflowing remorse, saying that he was wrong yesterday, admitting his mistake, and begging for my forgiveness. The letter also said that although his actions were reckless, the words he spoke were sincere. I didn't read further, setting it alight instead. Even without the grievances from my past life, I could never forgive his behavior yesterday. Half a month after this incident, Xiao Boyan left the capital. The emperor loathed him and ordered him to return to his Miao territory as soon as possible. On the morning of his departure, I secretly went to the southern city gate to see him off, but I didn't see him. When I asked the guards at the gate, someone told me that the 9th prince, Xiao Boyan, had left through the northern gate instead. Why take the north gate? Doesn't the road to Miaojiang go through the south gate? Miaojiang. The soldier scratched his head. Didn't you say we were going to Yang Men? I froze for a moment, then hurriedly turned and sprinted toward the northern city gate. My lungs were about to burst from running. But I finally caught up with the horse caravan just as it was leaving the city. Xiao Boyan rode at the front on horseback, followed by his attendants. I dashed forward frantically, pushing through the crowd, and grabbed hold of his horse. Xiao Boyan, he was startled. How did you get here? They say you're going to Yang Men. He tightened his grip on the reins. Yes. Weren't you supposed to return to Miaojiang? Did they force you? No. It was my own request to the emperor to let me guard Yang Men. Why? His hand tightened on the reins as he gazed down at me, his eyes soft. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Because there's still someone here worth protecting. For this person, I'm willing to return to Yang Men." I was stunned, speechless for a long while. "Jiang Wu, I want you to live well, safely, and happily." He no longer looked at me, tightened the reins, and rode away. Xiao Boyan. I chased after the shrinking figure in the dust, screaming, "Write to me when you arrive. Don't you forget me." No one responded. Amid the swirling yellow sand, I finally lost sight of him. When I returned home, grandmother was furious. "Ah Wu, why did you go see off that disgraced official? Don't you know how much suspicion this will bring upon the Jiang family?" I listened quietly to the scolding, waiting until grandmother had exhausted herself before prostrating myself to kowtow. "Grandmother. Ah Wu knows she was wrong. Please punish Ah Wu." "Here we go again. What would I punish you for?" Grandmother shed tears, came down, and embraced me in her arms. "Ah Wu, you're the only descendant left in the Jiang family. How else should your grandmother dote on you? Whether I scold you or lecture you, it's all for your future. Why won't you listen to your grandmother?" I nestled into her embrace and murmured, "I know, grandmother, I know everything. If you know, then listen to your grandmother. Let me arrange everything for you. Wouldn't it be good for you to live a peaceful life?" "Okay." I nodded and hugged my grandmother tightly. I decided to obediently follow my grandmother's words, never to anger her again, and accept her arrangements. After that day, grandmother once again began making arrangements for my marriage. I don't know where she had seen Lin Jingyu or learned about his plans to return home and marry the mute girl. But she immediately turned around and came to interrogate me about it. I immediately dropped to my knees before her. If I kneel fast enough, she won't have time to get angry. Don't make it difficult for Lin Jingyu. Grandma, he already has someone in his heart. Let's pick someone else, this time. She just sighed for what felt like half the day before letting me off. After a long headache, She decided to pick a good young man from another family instead. Just then, I actually received a letter from the north. The name on the envelope was Wu Xiaojiang. In an instant, I understood Xiao Boyan had used a pseudonym out of fear the letter might be intercepted. When I opened the envelope, a few unfamiliar flowers and plants, still fragrant, tumbled out. Inside the letter, Xiao Boyan described in detail what Yang Men was like, what its people ate, wore, and how they spent their days. At the end of the letter, he even wished that I would find a good husband, and when I got married someday, to send him a jar of wine. I never expected he would actually write to me, holding a bundle of papers. I cried for a long time, then hurriedly wrote back, urging him to write often, and secretly had someone deliver the letter. He received it, and afterward, he truly began writing to me frequently. He wrote to me about everything, what he ate each day, what he saw, leaving out no detail. It gave me hope and something to cherish in the otherwise dull and monotonous capital. This peaceful life was shattered when October arrived, because the barbarians launched a surprise attack on Yang Men. I didn't know the specifics of the battle, only that countless lives were lost in a single night. The emperor had decided to abandon Yang Men and move the capital south. This meant that from then on, Yang Men would be trapped in a desperate situation, enemies ahead and no reinforcements behind. I ran home like a madman, wanting to ask my father if it was true. When I arrived, everyone was already packing their belongings. Grandmother grabbed me and scolded me thoroughly. "Jiao Jiao, you nearly scared me to death. Where did you run off to? Hurry and pack your things. We must leave before sunset." "Grandmother, is the court truly moving south?" Grandmother sighed. "The court has lived in peace for decades, too long without war. Few remain who know how to fight, and no one has confidence. The southern lands are crisscrossed with rivers and mountains, easy to defend but hard to attack. To save as many as possible, the only plan now is to move the capital south." I panicked. "What about Yang Men? What about the people of Yang Men? What will happen to them?" Grandmother's eyes welled up with tears, and she fell silent. My father sighed and said, "They died for their country. It is the highest honor, and they will be remembered for eternity. Who cares about this damned honor? I want them alive," I screamed, with unprecedented courage surging through me, and dashed outside. "Jiao Jiao, where are you going? Surely you're not going after that disgraced official." "Jiao Jiao." Grandmother nearly fell while chasing after me. I turned back to look at her, tears streaming down my face as I kowtowed. "Grandmother, forgive Jiao Jiao for being disobedient once again." I stood up to run but was stopped by the guards. I simply drew my blade and pressed it to my throat. "Take one more step, and I'll slit my own throat right here." My grandmother, held back by my father, nearly fainted from crying. "Jiao Jiao, put it down. You'll be the death of your grandmother." "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He returned to Yang Men for my sake. If I were to head south, I would never find peace for the rest of my life. No one dared to step forward. I seized a horse and galloped straight to Yang Men. I rode day and night, changing horses several times along the way, and finally reached Yang Men after 10 days. The horse stopped, and I collapsed, gasping for breath, nearly dead. A soldier came forward to check but dared not let me enter the city. I could only clutch at his trouser leg and beg him, "Tell Xiao Boyan that Jiang Wu requests an audience." The soldier hurried inside. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the city gates opened, and a general reeking of blood rushed toward me. Jiang Wu, his hands trembled as he lifted me up, caught between joy and anger. "What are you doing here? You should have gone south with them. Why did you come running here?" I clenched my teeth, tears streaming down my face one after another. "I'll die with you." Xiao Boyan, his eyes reddened instantly. "Who asked you to die with me? If you refuse, I'll die right now." "Jiang Wu, what am I to do with you?" When he held me tight and scalding tears fell into the hollow of my neck, I knew I had come to the right place. The defensive situation at Yang Men was dire. After the battle half a month ago, their strength was severely depleted, yet there was no time for recovery. Xiao Boyan took me to the pass. The soldiers were repairing the city walls. Just a few miles away, dense clusters of enemy tents stretched endlessly, suffocating to behold. The disparity in strength was so vast that Yang Men would likely, truly, be impossible to defend. Yet, I wasn't afraid, at least in this lifetime. Even if I died, I would have no regrets. That night, I slept in Xiao Boyan's room. The weather had turned cold, and after bathing, I shivered as I burrowed under the covers. When Xiao Boyan entered, he didn't even remove his armor before sitting on the floor beside the bed. "Aren't you coming up?" He closed his eyes, not even glancing at me. "Just go to sleep." "I won't." I stretched out my foot and nudged him, mimicking how Jiang Tsiwa had coaxed Xiao Ziyi in their past life, putting on a coquettish act. Brother Boyon, I'm cold, I can't get warm. Xiao Boyon let out a soft sigh, still refusing to look at me as he stood up to leave. Then I'll go get you a brazier of charcoal. Don't, charcoal is precious, what a waste. Brother Boyon, look, this bed is so big, it can easily fit 2 people. His ears instantly turned red, his Adam's apple bobbing as he struggled not to turn around. Awu, don't provoke me anymore, I'm afraid of what I might do. And what might that be? I sat up and wrapped my arms around his waist. I came alone, already prepared to entrust my entire life and fortune to you. Xiao Boyon, do you truly not understand? His eyes snapped open as he turned to look at me, his gaze feral. Aren't you afraid you'll regret this in the future? My future is your future, Xiao Boyon. Didn't you say you'd let me bully you? Come here, let me have my way with you. Ah Wu, you're truly a little demon. His gaze lingered on my lips before he finally couldn't resist lowering his head to kiss me. What happened afterward need not be said. Later, I changed into a soldier's uniform and helped out in the city. The barbarians launched attacks almost daily, but each time, we held our ground, until mid-November, when a 1,000-strong barbarian force traversed mountains and rivers, bypassed the pass, and struck our rear, cutting off our only supply route. Yangmen had finally become a city under siege. Xiao Boyon still resisted desperately. As long as Yangmen Gate held, the main forces of the barbarians couldn't advance southward, and more civilians in the pass could be evacuated. He once said the lands behind weren't worth his protection, but now, he reassured me, saying he would hold the line for me until the very end, even if it meant dying beneath the city walls. By late November, with arrows exhausted and supplies depleted, we truly could hold no longer. My vision darkened from hunger as I collapsed unconscious at the base of the city wall. I thought, this must be how death feels. Yet in the haze, a voice suddenly echoed through my mind. Jiang Wu, wake up, don't just die like this, I murmured in response. Who are you? Who I am doesn't matter. Jiang Wu, wake up, don't die. You were able to be reborn because someone repented for 10 years before the Earth Lord's throne, trading all their good fortune for 10 future lifetimes. Don't die. Who made the trade? I jolted awake, but the sound had vanished. Upon closer reflection, I couldn't even recall whether it had been a man's voice or a woman's. Trade the blessings of 10 future lifetimes for my rebirth. Who would do such a thing? Since that voice just now spoke of 10 years of repentance, does that mean the person feels guilty toward me? The face of the Crown Prince unexpectedly surfaced in my mind. It couldn't be him. How could he ever feel regret? What a wretched thought. Perhaps it was just a dream. I pushed the thought aside and climbed the city tower to find Xiao Boyon, sitting on the ground with him. I endured yet another night. The next day, we truly couldn't hold on any longer. We sat atop the city wall, watching as the barbarians launched another assault against us. His hands had nearly lost all strength, trembling violently as they gripped the sword. Fortunately, we are not going to kill the enemy, but to take our own lives, to avoid falling into the hands of the barbarians and suffering humiliation. Do you regret it? No regrets. He kissed my forehead with a smile. Awu, to die with you in this life is my greatest fortune. He raised his hand, the sword at his throat. And I picked up the dagger to join him in the afterlife. The setting sun bled like crimson, war horns shaking the heavens. We exchanged one last smile, then closed our eyes. At this critical moment, a soldier's shout suddenly came from behind. General, reinforcements have arrived, reinforcements have arrived. Xiao Boyon and I opened our eyes wide in disbelief, quickly turning to look behind us. Dust filled the sky as thousands of cavalrymen came charging toward the pass in the distance. Xiao Boyon and I rushed down the city wall in haste to greet them. As the cavalry drew nearer, I saw a majestic general in white leading the charge. My vision blurred, making it hard to distinguish faces, until the white-clad general cried out hoarsely, Jiao Jiao, grandmother, I thought I was dreaming. Stumbling toward her, she dismounted and rushed toward me, her face splattered with blood, nearly unrecognizable, only the hot tears carving 2 pale trails down her cheeks. She embraced me, sobbing uncontrollably. Jiao, your grandmother is here. How have you grown so thin? Nothing but skin and bones. It's all my fault for not gathering the troops sooner, letting my precious Jiao suffer. Grandmother, it's really you, I sobbed, returning her embrace. Grandmother, why have you come? You're elderly and frail. How could you endure such hardship? I may be old, but have you forgotten who I am? I'm the Marchioness who drove the barbarian tribes 1,000 miles away. Even if I'm left with nothing but bones, I can still fight. Without another word, She pushed me toward Xiao Boyan. "Take good care of my granddaughter." Then she mounted her horse and shouted, "Open the gates, meet the enemy." The clamor of battle shook the heavens, the clang of weapons and thunder of hooves roared past her ears. Amidst the yellow sand, grandmother charged straight ahead with her spear, unstoppable and invincible. The battle raged on for a full day, and once again, grandmother led her troops to drive the barbarian hordes hundreds of miles beyond the borders. I heard that among the enemy ranks, there was a veteran soldier who, upon seeing grandmother, couldn't believe she was the legendary female general of the tales. Thinking her a vengeful spirit descended from the heavens, he dropped his weapon and fled in terror. Over 30 years ago, the female general's wrathful slaughter of the barbarians became the stuff of myth, and today, the myth descended upon Yang Men once again. Yang Men was saved, the capital was saved as well. After this battle, the people who had previously relocated gradually returned to the capital, and naturally, the imperial court moved back too. However, remnants of the barbarian tribes still lingered, so Xiao Boyan could not leave. From then on, he would remain stationed at Yang Men forever. After a fierce battle, my grandmother's old wounds flared up again, making it impossible for her to depart either. Moreover, since I insisted on staying in Yang Men to be with Xiao Boyan, she had even less reason to leave. She had initially strongly opposed our relationship, but later, Xiao Boyan knelt outside her door for 3 days, begging her to grant me to him. Grandmother was finally moved and stopped objecting. Later, when she saw how well Xiao Boyan treated me, she felt reassured. She decided to personally arrange our wedding. As for herself, she said she wouldn't return to the capital. She said her husband was buried at Yang Men, and when she died, she wished to be buried there as well. Before the spring festival, the emperor issued an imperial decree to commend Xiao Boyan. He was no longer a criminal but was in theft as the Prince of Yang, with a fief of 5,000 households. Before marrying him, I had already prepared myself to become the wife of a criminal. Unexpectedly, I ended up as a princess consort, not long after the decree was issued. My father arrived at Yang Men with Zhaobi. I don't know what had happened, but his hair had turned white, and he looked utterly humiliated. Upon asking, I learned that my stepsister Jiang Xiue, fearing she wouldn't marry into a good family, had secretly seduced the heir of Prince Xian and climbed into his bed. Now, though taken into Prince Xian's household, she wasn't even granted the status of a concubine. The princess consort of Prince Xian was domineering, not only frequently suppressing Jiang Xiue but also often causing trouble for my father at the Jiang residence, demanding he take Jiang Xiue back. Unable to bear it, my father simply fled to Yang Men to escape the turmoil. I feel a bit wistful. Jiang Xiue hasn't changed at all. In my past life, she climbed into Xiao Zedi's bed and became a glamorous concubine. This time around, her luck isn't so good. I married in spring. That day, I received several carts of fine wine. It was delivered personally by Xiao Zi. He knew I didn't want to see him, so he didn't enter, drinking alone all night in the small tower in the city. The next day, without saying goodbye, he galloped back to the capital at full speed. In the second year of our marriage, I became pregnant. At that time, my grandmother's health was getting worse, to the point where she could only lie in bed. She knew her time was running out, and from the day she learned of my pregnancy, she began sewing clothes for the little one. Not knowing whether it would be a boy or a girl, she sewed for both, working day and night until the house was filled with tiny garments. No amount of persuasion could stop her. That spring, my grandmother's lamp burned out. She couldn't hold on long enough to see her great-grandchild born. I wept as I tried to give her water, but not a single drop would pass her lips. "Grandmother, please, get better. You haven't even held your great-grandchild yet." Tears fell onto grandmother's face as she clenched the needlework in her hands. Her lips moved slightly, and to everyone's surprise, a faint voice emerged. "Jiao Jiao, grandmother can't sew baby clothes anymore. You'll have to sew them yourself. You still have a whole lifetime ahead of you." Then she turned her gaze to Xiao Boyan. "Prince Yang, take good care of her. I'll be watching over you both from the underworld." Xiao Boyan's eyes were bloodshot as he knelt down, grasping her hand and saying, "Grandmother, rest assured, I will protect her well and never let her suffer the slightest grievance." Grandmother smiled, then she looked at me. "Jiao Jiao, don't cry. It pains my heart to see you like this. Don't cry, I'm very happy," grandmother said. Her withered hand brushed across my cheek. A tear falling from the corner of her eye, her voice grew fainter, as if falling into an abyss. Yet the moment I understood her words, they struck like thunder from a clear sky. "My dear, your grandmother must go now. In our past life, I failed to protect you, letting you depart before me, but in this life, Seeing you happy and safe brings me endless contentment, truly endless. I froze for an instant before clutching her hand frantically, crying out, "Grandmother, what are you saying? What do you mean, grandmother, grandmother?" Her consciousness was no longer clear, her voice came in broken fragments, hot tears streaming down. "Jiao Jiao, your grandmother saw with her own eyes when you jumped from the tower. My heart, it's shattered to pieces. Jiao Jiao, you must live well." With her last breath exhaled, she fell silent forever. At last I know who it was that gave me rebirth, yet she herself will never wake again. The Swallow Gate has no more lady generals, only endless spring. End of main text. Side story. The Marchioness, the dowager of the Jiang family, accomplished 2 world-renowned feats in her lifetime. The first was tearing her wedding dress and jumping into the river to escape marriage on her wedding day with the heir of the state Duke Hong's mansion. The second was marrying a general. Then after the general fell in battle, taking command of his 100,000 troops and driving the barbarian tribes 1,000 miles beyond the borders. She single-handedly turned the tide in a crisis, protecting countless lives. After that, she went on to relieve disasters, quell calamities, and achieved illustrious military feats. At the age of 30, she was enfeoffed as an unprecedented female marquess, bestowed with the python-headed staff, a symbol that granted her authority to admonish the emperor above and discipline ministers below. She had everything one could desire in life, with no further wants, in her later years. Her sole purpose for living was to safeguard what the general had entrusted to her, the Jiang family. Lady Jiang was renowned throughout her life for her formidable reputation, and she herself possessed an iron will. The word softness had nothing to do with her since the general's death. Not even her own son had ever received her tenderness, until the birth of her little granddaughter. This child, who lost her mother at birth, had to be taken in by Lady Jiang, who raised her personally. Perhaps it's because she's grown old that her heart has softened along with the years. Holding the child in her arms, she felt deeply moved. The little one, soft as a doughy dumpling, could smile right from birth. Old Madame Jiang gazed at her, unable to tear her eyes away no matter how long she looked. As the child grew day by day, she learned to walk and talk, becoming increasingly mischievous and always causing trouble. She couldn't bear to scold her, but if she didn't, she feared the child might grow up spoiled, so she would close her eyes and strike the girl's palm with a ruler. Each time after disciplining her, her heart ached unbearably. Unwilling to show it, she would return to her room and fiercely strike her own palm in return. Old Madame Jiang most loved hearing her little granddaughter recite lessons, that milky voice chanting, "Man is pig, nature is good." Who knows if the child did it on purpose? But every time it left the grandmother torn between laughter and tears. She loved her as dearly as life itself, vowing to raise her well, ensuring she would live in wealth, peace, and safety, free from hardship all her days. The little granddaughter was quite obedient, but at the age of 13, everything changed after she caught a glimpse of the crown prince in the palace. Old Lady Jiang had no fondness for the imperial family. They were notoriously fickle, with too many women in their lives. How could she bear to see her beloved granddaughter suffer such misery? She hit her for the first time in a long while, but no matter how much she hit her, it couldn't stop the girl's heart from fluttering. On the contrary, it only made her more rebellious. Later, the son married a new wife into the household. The little granddaughter grew more rebellious with each passing day. Then one day, she insisted on attending the polo match to see the crown prince, where she unexpectedly encountered assassins and saved the severely wounded prince. The emperor decreed their marriage. Powerless to change fate, she could only watch as her granddaughter stepped into the abyss. Blinded by rage, she punished her little granddaughter by making her kneel in the ancestral hall all night. After that, she never saw her again, until the girl married into the Eastern Palace, vanishing without a trace. She told herself that children must find their own paths, and resolved to let go, but I just couldn't bear to part with her, so I kept sending people to the Eastern Palace to inquire how my little granddaughter was doing. I heard the crown prince treated her coldly, heard she cried every single day. It broke my heart. Yet I stubbornly clung to my pride, refusing to go see her. I kept thinking, once she's suffered enough, she'll naturally regret it and come back to me. But she never lived to see that day. The barbarians invaded, Yang men fell, and the capital was overrun. She heard that the crown prince had abandoned his consort and fled with his concubine. Overwhelmed with anxiety, she raced on horseback to find her. Yet just as she was about to arrive, she watched helplessly as her beloved leaped from the city tower. At that moment, she wailed uncontrollably, hurting as if she herself had died. She rushed over to embrace her. Suddenly, she caught sight of the crown prince, whether out of regret or something else. He had actually returned. She cursed him as a coward, demanding, "Didn't you abandon her and run for your life? What are you back for?" The crown prince collapsed to the ground, weeping uncontrollably. "I never meant to abandon her. I was too late." She refused to listen to his excuses and slapped him across the face. The crown prince lay prostrate on the ground, unable to rise for a long time, until palace attendants found him and helped him escape. The court moved south, and Lady Jiang followed them, departing together. Later, when the crown prince ascended the throne, she could no longer receive news of the emperor. She only knew that her step-granddaughter, the prince's concubine, had died mysteriously in the cold palace. 2 years later, Lady Jiang passed away in deep sorrow. After her death, the underworld officers brought her before the Lord of the Underworld, saying that she had accumulated boundless virtue in life and could join the ranks of immortals after death, becoming a local deity who would protect the region. Yet she refused. She knelt before the Lord of the Underworld and confessed that she had no virtue to speak of, but had instead committed a grave wrong. She said her little granddaughter had died unjustly and begged the Lord to show mercy. To grant her granddaughter another chance at life, the Earth Lord naturally refused. She had no choice but to kneel and beg every day. Only after she had knelt for 10 full years did the Earth Lord, moved by compassion, finally agree, at the cost of her good fortune for 10 future lifetimes. In exchange for her little granddaughter's rebirth, she hurriedly kowtowed in gratitude. Looking up, he found himself already at home, where his son was complaining to him. Awu has gone to see the crown prince again. Overjoyed, she also knew this day was of utmost importance and hurried out to look for Jiang Wu. Unexpectedly, the girl returned on her own. Jiang Wu knelt at her knees and called out grandmother, a term that hadn't been uttered in a long time. After that, although Jiang Wu remained mischievous, he no longer kept her at arm's length as he had in their previous life. She marveled at his transformation. Thinking perhaps the Earth Lord had lent a helping hand to bring Jiang Wu to his senses, and she felt deeply grateful in her heart. In this life, she was determined to change the fate of the fallen city and broken gates. Yet, she was no longer at court and had no evidence to speak of. It would hardly be appropriate to directly advise the emperor to fortify Yangmen Pass. She devised a plan to bribe assassins, disguising them as barbarian killers to wreak havoc in the capital. The ploy worked. Court officials began paying attention to the long-neglected Yangmen Pass. Alas, what she hadn't anticipated was that the imperial court, grown complacent over years of peace, had long forgotten how to wage war. In October, Yangmen was attacked, leaving countless dead and wounded. The imperial court had no extra troops to spare. She truly wished to go, but she was already old, her body far weaker than before. Even if she went to the front lines, victory would be hard to achieve. Besides, if she died, what would happen to Jiang Wu? Fearing that further delay would lead to the same fate as her previous life, she advised the emperor to move the capital south. The emperor agreed. Only then did she realize how deeply her little granddaughter had fallen for that disgraced official. She sent people to pursue, but failed to bring Jiang Wu back. Left with no choice, she decided to return to the battlefield to rescue her. Nothing would come easy. She had no troops, the court was weak, and certainly wouldn't lend her any. She had no choice but to borrow private soldiers from various noble houses and exhaust her family fortune to recruit loyal warriors. Finally gathering enough troops by mid-November, with these forces, she fought her way back to Yangmen. The female marquis had aged, yet the barbarians remained defeated beneath her skirts. She drove the barbarians hundreds of miles away, but her body, after all, was no longer as strong as in her youth. The moment she returned to Yangmen, she collapsed. The disgraced official sought many physicians to treat her illness, but she refused their kindness. She feared that accepting their help would mean sacrificing her granddaughter in return. She knew Jiang Wu loved Xiao Boyan, but she could not agree. Xiao Boyan bore the stigma of a criminal, his future uncertain. How could she bear to let her granddaughter suffer? It wasn't until later, when she spent every day with them and personally witnessed how tenderly Xiao Boyan treated Jiang Wu, how he indulged her, that her heart gradually softened. Some days later, Xiao Boyan knelt outside her door for 3 days again. She took the opportunity to comply and agreed to the matter. She passed away in spring. After her departure, ghostly attendants came to take her away. She asked if she would be sent somewhere to suffer. The ghostly official laughed. "You're a noble woman who's performed meritorious deeds to save the world. If even you must suffer after death, wouldn't that make the heavenly way unjust?" She was stunned. The ghostly official continued. Taking away your good fortune for 10 future lifetimes was just the underworld lord deceiving you. This position of Earth Immortal has always been reserved for you, old madam. Where would you like to serve as an Earth Immortal? She raised her head, gazing at the endless spring grass of the mortal world, and answered without hesitation, Yang Men, the end.